Woken by the sound of rain in the middle of the night, I got up to close the window and saw a huge moon. With such clear weather, how could there be rain? But just now something clearly tapped the glass. I poked my head out. In the moonlight, a huge black silhouette stood on the rooftop across from me, waving at me. As I was bewildered, someone grabbed my mouth from behind. "Don't make a sound, it can hear." My mother covered my mouth and slowly backed into the house. The dark figure on the roof across the way was still waving at me. By its outline, it was much larger than a person. My mom didn't let go of me until we were a full 2 meters away from the window. She rushed to the bedside and shook my dad violently. "Wake up! Wake up! That thing has found us." My dad had been fast asleep, but suddenly sprang up from bed. "What did you say?" My mom lowered her voice. It was trembling. "It's here. That thing has found us." By the bright moonlight, I saw my father's face go deathly pale in an instant. "Where? Did you see it?" "I saw it right on the rooftop across the way." My father hurriedly jumped out of bed to close the window. When I looked again, that thing was gone. It's been so many years, we've moved so many times, and yet it still managed to find us. My dad tightened the curtains. The lights were off inside. It was pitch dark. "Dad, Mom, what is that?" My mother quickly covered my mouth. "Don't make a sound, it can hear." My father slammed the bed hard and looked at me with a face full of worry. "The child is growing up, its presence getting stronger. It's finding us more easily than before." My mother clenched her fists, hatred and sorrow intertwined in her eyes. "It has already taken one of our children. How can it ever leave us alone?" My mother was talking about my twin brother, who died when we were children. They always told me my brother died of illness, but it now seems there was more to it. "Mom, how did my brother actually die? What was that thing just now?" My mother said nothing. She only panicked and grabbed a mask to shove over my face. "Baby, don't ask. Put the mask on quickly. Try to slow your breathing." To be honest, as a 16-year-old guy, I'm not used to my mom calling me that. But our family has a strict rule. After the sun goes down, no one in the house may call my name. In fact, no one at all may call my name. It's just that I don't go out at night and don't come into contact with outsiders. Once my mother called my name in a dream in the middle of the night. When she woke up, she was slapping her own mouth so hard she drew blood. That night, we fled as if our lives depended on it, leaving there overnight. I was still young then and didn't understand anything, obeying my parents without question. My father hurriedly threw on a jacket and began to pack, exactly the same as that time. "Honey, quickly pack some underwear. We're leaving right now." "Leaving? Where are we going at this late hour?" In fact, we have been living here for less than 2 months. From the time I can remember, we have been moving constantly. South, north, countryside, city. We never stayed in one place for more than a year. My mother wiped her face, sniffling. When will this running and hiding ever end? My mother carried over a suitcase. I grabbed her hand tightly. "Mom, tell me, what have we been hiding from all these years? What exactly was that thing just now?" My mother touched my face. "Don't ask any more, child. It's all your parents' fault. I'm tired of this rootless, wandering life, and yet they refuse to tell me anything." Anger coiled inside me as I sat down on the floor. "If you don't tell me the truth today, I'm not going anywhere." My father was stuffing things into a box. Hearing my words, he rushed over, wound up his arm, and slapped me hard across the face. "You reckless fool. Have you forgotten the lesson from 7 years ago?" 7 years ago, my head buzzed, and I saw that blood-soaked drying yard. I was 9 years old then. We moved from Hunan to a rural area in Hebei. At night, I was strictly forbidden from going out, but 9 is exactly the age when boys are mischievous and like to play. That night, I slipped out over the courtyard wall while my parents weren't paying attention. We were playing hide-and-seek with a group of kids in the village's abandoned grain-drying ground. The kid who was it was named Rocky. I hid in a pile of firewood and watched Rocky root out the others one by one. The found kids quickly joined the search, and before long, everyone had been found, leaving only me. The night grew later, and the other children, losing patience, had all gone home. Only Rocky refused to give up. "Ethan, where are you?" "Ethan, I will find you no matter what." He called my name as he searched for me everywhere. He could never find me. I'd been curled up so long that I was sleepy. In a daze, I heard a piercing, agonized scream. I jerked upright and looked outside. Rocky was gone, and only a terrifying trail of blood remained on the grain-drying yard. On a summer night, it had just been clear and bright, the full moon hanging high. At some point, a thick fog rolled in, and the floodlights at the edge of the yard lit the grain-drying area into a milky white. Normally, this place rarely gets foggy in summer, but tonight it felt very sinister. The trail of blood twisted and turned, stretching into the thick fog, its length impossible to tell. I was terrified. I scrambled out of the pile of firewood and brush. Rocky, Rocky. A few steps along the blood trail, I saw a sneaker soaked with blood. It's Rocky's. The village was very small, surrounded by mountains on three sides. On sunny days, standing on the drying ground, you could see the South Mountain not far away. That trail of blood led south. I looked in that direction and saw a huge black shape in the thick fog, waving at me. I was so frightened I went dumb, wanting to shout but unable to make a sound. Fortunately, the drying ground was right in the center of the village, and Rocky's scream had alerted the nearby villagers. People arrived quickly. What's wrong? What's happening? More and more people were gathering on the grain-drying yard. It's Rocky. Rocky is missing. We were playing hide-and-seek here just now. I heard a scream, and then he was gone. There's so much blood on the ground. A thick mist surrounded them. Nothing could be seen clearly. Rocky's mother held the sneaker soaked with blood and fainted. Soon someone called the police. People were full of speculation. Some said there were wild beasts in the mountains. Others said it was haunted. The village chief looked at the long bloodstains on the ground and followed their winding trail toward the southern mountain. I've lived here for decades and never heard of anything up on the mountain. Take your sickles, picks, hammers, bring flashlights. Let's go up and search. A good child can't just be gone like this. Yes, we'll definitely bring the child back. Everyone spoke out angrily, one after another. At that moment, an elderly villager, one of the oldest in the village, pinched a bit of blood to his nostrils, sniffed, and said slowly, "Don't bring a flashlight, bring torches." I was wedged among a group of people, following them up the mountain. At first, the bloodstains were just a trail. The higher we went, the more they became. Later, they turned into patches and patches. It was only then that I realized people have so much blood in their bodies. Someone was quietly gossiping behind us. Looking at the amount of blood, even if they find the child, he won't survive. Yes, so young. How pitiful. Uncle Nan told us to bring torches. Could there really be a beast? To be able to snatch a child and run off so fast without a trace. What kind of beast would that have to be? I think there's something evil about today. Look at this fog. It's been ages since we've seen fog this thick. Could be anything. The more they talked, the more ominous their words became. The group followed the bloodstains all the way to the top of Mount Nan. Rocky was nowhere to be seen along the way. They finally found a pile of torn flesh at the entrance of cave, and beside it Rocky's blood-stained clothes. When my parents arrived, I was standing among the crowd, holding a torch, already terrified. They were panting. You could tell they had run without stopping as soon as they got the news. My dad came up and kicked me. "Ethan, who told you to run around at night?" My parents didn't talk to anyone in the village or ask about Rocky. They just grabbed me and headed down the mountain. At first we walked, but our steps grew quicker and quicker, and finally we just ran. When we got home, without another word, we packed our things and drove away. Later, I heard the police deployed a lot of manpower to search the mountain, but found nothing. I don't know what happened after that. I only know that over the past few years, my dad has been anonymously sending money to Rocky's family. I sat on the floor, half my face numb from my dad's slap. But in my mind, a sudden thought flashed. Dad, the night Rocky had his accident 7 years ago, I also saw a dark figure waving at me. My dad slapped me again. You still have the nerve to talk? That night you were the one who was supposed to die. My parents packed up quickly because most of our luggage had been in the car for years. There weren't many cars on the road at midnight. My dad was driving very fast. We almost collided with a dump truck while turning the corner. My mother sat in the back seat, gripping my hand tightly. Her palm was sweaty. I could feel how anxious she was. "Let's take it easy." "No, we can't. The fog is coming." We have to get on the highway before they close the road. I looked out the window at the bright moon high in the sky. The weather was clear and dry, hardly the kind of night that would fog over. My dad was driving, racing like the wind toward the highway entrance. Sure enough, as we neared the toll station, fog rolled in and the lanes were closing. We watched as the green go signs above several lanes turned into red excess. My dad slammed the gas pedal and broke through the guardrail. I was terrified. "Dad, what are you doing? This is illegal." My dad didn't speak, his hands gripping the steering wheel tightly. Suddenly, I saw a little boy waving by the roadside of the highway. The fog was thick now, and visibility was poor. A little boy stood at the roadside. It was the middle of the night. The fog was so heavy the intersection was closed. There were hardly any cars on the whole road. How could there be a child standing by the roadside? At that moment, a van drove slowly past with its fog lights on. It neither changed lanes nor stopped. It seemed like only we could see that child. From afar, watching him, I felt a sense of familiarity. The car drew closer and closer to him, and he waved his hand faster and faster. He was wearing only one shoe. The other foot was bare. Suddenly I could see his face clearly. "That's Rocky, Mom. That's Rocky." My mother immediately covered my mouth. "You're mistaken. Rocky has been dead for so many years." I wasn't mistaken, it was Rocky. By then our car had already driven past. I struggled to look back. The roadside was a white blur, nothing at all. My mom rummaged in her bag and took out a small incense burner and a few sticks of incense. From the time I can remember, my mother often burned incense. But today, no matter how she tried, she couldn't get this incense to light. After several futile attempts, she had to put it away again. On the pitch-black highway, there was thick fog everywhere within the range of the headlights. Logically, we should have been driving slowly in these conditions, but my father's car kept going faster and faster. Static from the speakers suddenly filled the air. I thought I must have misheard, since my father hadn't turned on the system at all. But I soon realized I hadn't, because a clearer voice came through. "Ethan, where are you?" "Ethan, I will find you no matter what." It was Rocky's voice. My dad's face went deathly pale, and he punched the speaker. The voice vanished. Even I, not the sharpest, could see something was wrong. "Mom, Dad, something's attached to us, isn't it? You heard it too. You saw it too, right?" My mother held my hand tightly, her lips trembling. "Child, don't ask. That's something we can't afford to offend." I was so fed up with being kept in the dark. I knew the catastrophic doom was closing in, but no one told me what it was. I ripped my hand away from my mother's. "I've had enough. That thing just now, you all saw it too, right? What have we been hiding from all these years? Can't any of you tell me?" The car compartment was silent. I don't know if it was my imagination, but the air suddenly grew several degrees colder. At that moment, the sound system abruptly returned to normal and began broadcasting traffic updates. Due to heavy fog, emergency traffic control is now in effect. The highway will be closed entirely. Vehicles still on the road should exit the highway at the nearest available interchange. Visibility outside was truly terrible. Beyond 50 meters, everything was a white blur, impossible to make out. A few sparse passing cars, all with fog lights on, slowly changing lanes, preparing to exit the highway. In the rearview mirror, I saw my father's face ashen, his eyes fixed dead ahead. Our car was still accelerating. Suddenly, there was a ripping sound, the harsh screech of tires grinding violently against the road. The car's speed dropped sharply, and I was thrown forward. "Fuck!" My dad suddenly started swearing hysterically. Our car was on the verge of losing control. After changing lanes several times, it emergency merged into the breakdown lane. The brake pads emitted a piercing screech that nearly tore my eardrums. My mom asked anxiously, "What happened? What's going on?" The car scraped along the guardrail for several hundred meters before slowly coming to a stop. My dad leaned back in the driver's seat with his head tilted up, gasping heavily. "Honey, I can't. My heels aren't touching the floor. I can't control the car." I unbuckled my seatbelt and climbed into the front seat. I saw that my dad's hair was already soaked with sweat. His heels were lifted very high, as if he were deliberately standing on tiptoe. I pressed hard a few times. It felt like something was propping against the back of his heels. No matter how he tried, he couldn't get his feet to touch the ground. Mom, no, Dad's feet aren't getting solid footing. My mother and I together managed to get my father into the back seat. Honey, we can't stop, you drive. My mother's hand was shaking the whole time. No, I can't, I mustn't. I know my mother used to be able to drive. The day my brother died, my mother drove him out, and when she came back, only she was left. From that day on, my mother never touched a car again. The family also got a new car. I asked repeatedly about what happened that day, but they shut their mouths, insisting that my brother died of a sudden acute illness. My father held my mother's hand and reassured her. Wife, you were the heroine of the team back then. Trust me, it's going to be fine. My mother sat in the driver's seat, her face ashen. My father's words seemed to trigger some deep-seated memory. She clutched her head in agony. If it weren't for that time, we wouldn't have attracted that thing. My Evan wouldn't have died. My mom gripped the steering wheel, trembling like a sieve. Wife, the fog's getting thicker. We're running out of time. Drive now. My mom's hands shook so badly, she couldn't start the car no matter what. Mom, take care of Dad. I'll drive. I don't have a driver's license, but my dad secretly taught me how to drive. I climbed into the driver's seat and saw the fuel warning light was on, almost out of gas. I glanced at the map. There was a service area not far ahead. The car started smoothly, and I quickly accelerated. At that moment, a few thumps sounded by my ear. Something was knocking on a car door. I glanced at the speedometer, 110 kilometers per hour. What would be following us and knocking on a car door at that speed? Mist swirled in from all directions, pressing against the windshield, until nothing could be seen ahead. My dad's voice was trembling. Son, don't be afraid. Floor the gas and speed up. I slammed the accelerator, the car shot forward, and that sound vanished. It felt as if something had been thrown off and left behind in an instant. Dad, did we lose that terrifying shadow? My father's expression was grave. No, the fog is getting thicker, and the terrifying shadow is drawing closer to us. At that moment, the GPS was already indicating an exit, preparing to enter the service area. I glanced at the map. The service area was right next to us. But now, outside the window, there was nothing but the ever-stretching highway. On both sides were endless mountains, shrouded in mist, a wash of gray and white. Dad, something's wrong. I could see the service area on the map about to pass. The navigation kept prompting me to move right to enter the ramp. I stared hard at the road ahead. Turning right anymore would just plow through the guardrail. What should we do, Dad? Don't be afraid, son. Turn the wheel to the right. Turn. I clenched my teeth and jerked the wheel hard. As the front of the car headed for the guardrail, I instinctively shut my eyes. At that moment, I suddenly heard a rooster crow. It was the sound of a rooster's morning call. When I opened my eyes again, the road in front of me had suddenly become an exit ramp, and the service area was right there. The car smoothly slipped into the service area. At that moment, I looked again. Both sides of the highway were lined with villages, and the mountains that had been shrouded in mist were gone. The fog slowly dispersed. I glanced at my watch. It was almost 6 o'clock. I knew that the perilous night had probably passed, but my father's expression did not relax. We filled up the tank and ate a bit. By then, the sky was already growing light. My father's foot gradually returned to normal. I wanted to book a room to rest for a bit and take the chance to ask what was really going on, but my dad refused outright. We don't have time, son. We have to hurry. Dad, where are we going? What exactly is that thing? At this point, are you still trying to hide it from me? My dad tapped a cigarette. It was because your mother and I, when we were young, provoked something we shouldn't have. Back then, your mother and I were hot-headed. We once joined an expedition to the Altai Mountains, a place where 4 countries meet and stretches over more than 2,000 kilometers. Mysterious and treacherous. Our goal was the highest peak in the Northwest, but during the trek we were hit by a blizzard and got separated from the main party. It was the dead of winter. To survive, your mother and I... Suddenly, my father stopped speaking and began to look around in terror. Where is your mother? Why hasn't she come back yet? My heart skipped. My mother had just gone to the bathroom, and it had indeed been a long time. By rights, she should have returned. My dad and I exchanged a glance and hurriedly ran toward the restroom, calling my mom as we ran, but the call didn't connect. We stood at the women's restroom door and shouted a couple of times, but no one answered inside. Suddenly, my dad cried out my mom's name in terror, then sprinted toward a semi-truck that was starting up. Susan. Only then did I see that my mother, as if possessed, was trying to crawl under the semi-truck's wheels. My father grabbed my mother's arm and pulled with all his might to get her out. Fortunately, those trucks are huge, carry heavy loads, and start up slowly. My mother kept struggling to throw herself under the truck, mumbling and calling my brother's name. Evan, Evan, save Evan. My dad held my mom tightly in his arms. My mom's body seemed to be controlled by some inexplicable force. She was extraordinarily strong. My dad and I could barely hold her. My mom struggled, pointing under the truck, screaming hysterically, Evan, Evan. I followed the direction she was pointing and looked under the semi-trailer, but there was nothing there. The driver was clearly frightened. It took him a while before he swore and stumbled out of the cab. Are you trying to get yourself killed? Does this woman not want to live? He angrily pointed at my parents' faces and cursed, but he only caught a glimpse of my mother before turning and running away. It's not my fault. Everyone saw it. She ran under my car herself. My car didn't move. It didn't hit her. The driver looked as if he'd seen the living lord of the underworld. At that moment, my mother rolled her eyes back until only the whites showed, her body convulsing continuously. I reached out to check. The breath she was exhaling was cold. Son, bring some water. My dad pinched my mother's philtrum hard while barking at me. I hurriedly took the cup of cold water and handed it to him. My dad pulled a small censer from his bag, scooped some ash, and sprinkled it into the water. By now the sun had already come out. My dad carried my mom into the sunlight, his fingers dipped in ash water, flicking it bit by bit onto her face. Go now, the sun is up. You must go quickly. My mom's gaze gradually cleared, and the tense muscles all over her body slowly relaxed. She's fine. She's fine. That wasn't Evan. My mother, still shaken, trembled as she gripped my father's arm. Husband, the terrifying shadow hasn't left. The terrifying shadow has been following us. The terrifying shadow came to take Ethan. The terrifying shadow is stronger than before, and this was daytime, you know. My dad gritted his teeth, his tone cold as ice. We can't stay any longer. Hurry up and leave. I shoved the water and food I had just bought into the back seat and helped my mom into the car. My dad started the GPS. The destination was Inshan. My mother cried out, Are you crazy? Unless absolutely necessary. Is it not absolutely necessary now? We can't hide anymore. Go find Master Chan. Clear this karmic debt. Only then can we save our son's life. Do you want to end up like Evan? My mother was full of sorrow, fell silent, and only wept. My dad gripped the steering wheel, his face ashen. What the hell is that thing, Mom? How do we get mixed up with that terrifying shadow? My mom still looked unwell, her lips pale. She leaned back in her seat, slowly closed her eyes, and shook her head, looking utterly exhausted. You'll know when you get to Hidden Mountain. She seemed completely drained of strength, looking weak and powerless, her face pale. I couldn't bring myself to keep pressing her. In short, I knew something wanted my life. My mother slept fitfully the whole way. Fortunately, today was a rare sunny day, the sun blazing, and nothing else happened on the road. We made 2 brief stops at service areas. Most of the time, we were hurrying along. It wasn't until evening, as the sun slowly set, that my father's expression grew heavy. He made a call, and before my father could speak, the person on the other end spoke first. I knew you were coming. I already sent Jet to pick you up. He's waiting for you at the Sherlin service area. Tonight will be rough. He'll help smooth things out for you on the road. Though aged, that voice rang like a bell and sounded full of vigor. My father said nothing, only kept thanking him repeatedly. I looked at the map. The Sherlin service area was not far ahead. Darkness was falling, and the fog was beginning to come back. By the time we arrived at the Sherlin service area, it was completely dark. The place was remote, and there were very few people at the service area. My dad searched inside and out a few times, but couldn't find the person who was supposed to pick us up. So he had to call again. Master Chan, I'm at Sherlin. I don't see Master Jet. Are you sure he's already here? Aye. My apprentice is a bit of an ne'er-do-well. He's probably been indulging in drinks again. But don't worry. Though he loves his alcohol, he knows his limits and would never neglect his duties. Keep looking. My dad asked the staff repeatedly and at last found this Master Jet, who was completely plastered in the lounge. Not at all like the silver-haired, Taoist-robed, otherworldly sage I had imagined. This man looked only a few years older than me, dressed in casual clothes, wearing a black eye patch over his left eye. His face was flushed from drinking, and he was passed out clutching a bottle. Dad, can he really help us? He just looks like a drunk. My father looked at the master who wouldn't wake up, clicked his tongue, frowning. Watching as no amount of calling would wake him, my father finally said, "Anyway, get him in the car first." My dad and I together lifted Master Jet into the car, and the moment we held him, I realized his right pant leg was empty. He has no right leg. I studied this young master. At such a young age, he was blind in one eye and missing a leg. Poor thing, I thought. But he seemed to have a big heart. He slept soundly all the way, snoring like thunder. The car was speeding, and the map showed there was still more than 200 kilometers to the destination. The fog grew thicker and thicker. Suddenly, a piercing cry sounded outside the window, right up against the car glass. It was less a cry and more like the wail of an animal or a person on the verge of death. Harsh, piercing. The sound came from afar and drew near, closing in from all directions. I flailed, frantically slapping at Master Jet. "Wake up! Wake up! Aren't you here to help us?" But he was slumped against the back seat, turned in the opposite direction, and fell asleep again. He muttered in his sleep, "Be good. I don't have time to wake up right now." My dad gripped the steering wheel tightly, his voice rough and hoarse. "The terrifying shadow is coming. The terrifying shadow is really coming." The crying grew closer, thin and high-pitched, dense and pervasive, finding its way into every crack. It made my head spin, unsettled me, and felt suffocating. It felt like countless little bugs crawling into my blood vessels and the gaps in my bones, endlessly gnawing. My whole body itched and went numb. I wanted to stab myself with a knife. I gritted my teeth and clutched my head in pain. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw my mom sitting in the front seat, pulling a broken window hammer from her handbag and about to smash it into her own head. "Mom!" I couldn't help shouting. At that moment, Master Jet, who had been sleeping soundly, suddenly turned over and, as if speaking in a drunken stupor, shouted, "What are you screeching about? Can't you see I'm trying to sleep? Shut up and get out." His yell startled me, both alarm and anger. Strangely enough, as soon as he roared, the crying outside stopped immediately. My mother seemed to come to her senses all at once. The hammer clattered to the ground. The numbness and itch that had been in the gaps of my bones gradually subsided. The car began to run smoothly. I looked at the one-eyed little driver beside me, fast asleep and breathing heavily. Although he looked young and was dead drunk, he seemed to have some real skills. I felt a little more at ease. I don't know how long we'd been walking when my dad suddenly spoke. "Son, is there a car outside?" He asked that out of nowhere. It sounded strange and eerie. I looked at the van that had just driven past US and didn't understand what he meant. Didn't a van just pass by? "What's wrong, Dad?" "I can't see." My dad's voice was heavy and tense. "What? What can't you see?" "I can't see the van you mentioned. There's nothing on the road." I looked outside. Though it was foggy, cars were still passing by sporadically. I directed my dad to pull the car over to the emergency lane. I sat in the driver's seat, and sure enough, there wasn't a single car in sight. We couldn't bring ourselves to drive in that condition anymore. But we also dare not linger. As we hesitated, Jet stirred again. He didn't know whether he was sleepwalking or drunk, but he sat up and started ripping my clothes off, pulling down my pants. I really couldn't stand a straight man doing this. I was both ashamed and angry, so in a rush I slapped him. He was knocked crooked onto the back seat, talking as if in his sleep. "Take this kid's clothes off and throw him under the car. Run over him. Break this trick." In the rearview mirror, my dad quickly caught my eye, and then I began efficiently taking off my clothes. My mom was holding my clothes and was about to open the car door. Jet kept his eyes shut and mumbled again. Whatever you see, pretend you didn't see it. My dad patted my mom's hand. Go on, leave the clothes and come right back. By now the fog had grown thick, white patches constantly changing shape and gathering over the road. Maybe it was my imagination, but the temperature inside the car seemed to be dropping quickly. I curled up naked in the corner of the seat. By then my mom had come back, looking completely distraught. All set. My mother nodded like a statue, tears at the corner of her eyes. My father turned the key and was about to pull away when my mother grabbed his arm. Don't drive. What? Evan. Evan is under the car. That's not Evan. Wake up. My mom began to cry, clutching my dad's arm tightly and shaking her head, refusing to let go. Knock, knock, knock. The knocking sounded as if it were right against my ear again. This time it was urgent and rapid. Not one, but 3, 5, 10, more and more. It sounded like countless hands pressing against the car door and pounding on the glass. Dad, drive, hurry. My mom suddenly went crazy and lunged for the steering wheel. It's Evan. It's Evan. He's been calling for you. Can't you hear him? Are you going to run him over? The knocking at the door grew more urgent and more frequent. But my mom, as if mad, held on to my dad and refused to let him drive. That woman is so annoying. Hang this around her neck. Jet flipped over with the bottle in his arms, sent a string of beads flying onto the back seat. I quickly picked them up. Over the years, my parents dragged me to countless temples and shrines. I don't know how many different talismans for safety they've obtained. The moment I saw these beads, I knew they were strung alternately from black dog bone and lightning-struck wood. The beads were dark and glossy, each plump, 12 in the strand. Each one was carved with a different animal pattern, together forming the 12 zodiac signs. Holding it felt like a powerful energy field, a good thing for warding off evil and dispelling misfortune. I quickly put around my mother's neck. The beads had originally been strung on a soft cord, but when hung on my mother's neck, they suddenly stiffened like a wooden collar, trembling continuously and emitting a humming sound. My mother immediately calmed down and slumped over in the front seat, falling into a deep sleep. Something is banging on the car window outside, with a force strong enough to shatter bulletproof glass. Dad, drive faster. With a hum, the engine let out a deep, majestic roar. It might hurt a bit, you kid, bear with it. Jet muttered something again. For a moment I was puzzled, then the next second I understood what he meant. My dad hit the gas, and the car lunged forward. I was slammed back into the seat. A chilling sound came from under the wheels like bones being crushed, and the car shuddered. At the same time, intense pain radiated from my limbs, as if something were crushing my bones and squashing my organs. I bit my teeth and slumped in the back seat. The sweat dripping from me soaked the leather upholstery. Okay, I can see now. My dad exhaled deeply, floored the gas, and the car shot forward. I clenched my teeth, made no sound, endured for a while, and finally lost consciousness. When I woke again, I had been flung against the back of the front seat by a sudden break. The tires scraped violently against the ground, producing a piercing noise. My head was dizzy. I felt the car spinning out of control. A thick fog rolled outside, bunches of mist heaving and pressing in. I clung to the back of the seat, eyes wide, staring out. Greenish lights glinted in the fog ahead. Dozens, hundreds, no, maybe more. It was as if countless pairs of green glowing eyes were stepping out of the thick mist, getting closer and closer. What is that? Cats, so many cats. I screamed. It's not a cat. It's an Odocolobus mantle. My father's voice was dry and hoarse. Odocolobus mantle? I know that thing. It looks a lot like a cat. But this creature lives in high-altitude, extreme environments and has long kept a distant relationship with humans. How could there be so many Odocolobus mantle here? My dad gripped the steering wheel with white knuckles and floored the accelerator. The engine let out a low, beastly roar, already at maximum power. In the blink of an eye, countless things were swept under the car, and the body of the vehicle began to shake violently. Sharp, piercing wails came from outside the window. Soon even more pairs of eyes glowed green as they emerged from the dense fog. Not dozens or hundreds, but thousands upon thousands. Those things ran at full speed, crowding and lunging onto the car. They covered the windows on all sides and the car doors, claws everywhere, sharp and relentless. The windshield began to show fine cracks, which spread rapidly at a speed visible to the naked eye. It's hard to imagine these things of such immense power. They bear sharp teeth and emit furious wails. If the car were slit open, we would be torn to pieces by them in a minute or even less. I suddenly thought of the clump of shredded flesh I saw on the summit of Nanshan when I was 9. What should I do? What should I do? My dad gripped the steering wheel tightly, but one of the tires was already suspended in the air, and the car was tilting to one side. Master, master. I shook Jet desperately, but the Taoist priest frowned and kept his eyes tightly shut, sleeping deeply. Be quiet. I don't have time to wake up right now. The sound of nails scraping the glass came from outside, and the car door's steel panel began to dent inward. Suddenly, there was a loud bang. The car lurched violently as a beam of green light shot in from the rear, illuminating the entire cabin. I turned my head and saw a huge shadow looming over the rear window. Its eyes were like two searchlights, emitting two streams of greenish light. The 2-ton car was lifted off the ground as if picked up by that thing's massive claw. The body of the car spun, and Jet finally woke up. He rolled onto the ground and spat out a mouthful of blood. He flipped his body, pulled a talisman from his chest, and pushed it out violently. The talisman turned into a ball of fire in the air and struck the rear window. The enormous black shadow screamed and tumbled off. With a bang, the tire fell back to the ground. My dad slammed his foot on the gas. The tachometer leapt into the dangerous red and shuddered as the car surged forward. I struggled to look back. An odocolobus mammal, several times the size of the car, was pounding after us through the thick fog. But one of its legs seemed useless. The speed clearly couldn't match the little car at full throttle. Slowly it fell behind, and in the fog, only 2 huge green eyes receded into the distance. Jet wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth carelessly and said, I fought that thing all day and only managed to break one of its legs. Why dash, the leg of the terrifying shadow, did you break it? Jet squinted one eye and began to appraise me. You were the one who slapped me at the crucial moment just now. If it weren't for your slap, how would I have lost control? Thinking of the blow I had swung at him in a fit of anger earlier, I was at a loss for words. Jet, meanwhile, didn't press the issue further. He just looked at the green light slowly fading into the thick fog behind us and asked, This thing has been breeding and living on Earth for 15 million years. A small portion have evolved high intelligence, and they're very spiteful. Their habitats are so far from humans. How on earth did you provoke such a terrifying shadow? By then my mother had already fainted. It was my father who explained how things had happened. It turned out that when my parents got separated from the main group back then, in order to survive, they had no choice but to forage on their own. But finding food in that place was far from easy. My parents dodged large predators like snow leopards and wolverines while searching everywhere for small animals they could hunt. The plateau hares ran too fast. They were impossible to catch. After many twists and turns, the two of them together finally caught a plump odocolobus mammal. Only after skinning and butchering it did they discover the odocolobus mammal had 4 kits in its belly, and they looked nearly ready to be born. It was January, the breeding season for odocolobus mammal, and it had just given birth. Its cumbersome body had only then been left in my parents' care. Although my parents felt pity at the time, in order to survive, they still roasted it and ate it. Later, they were rescued, and when they returned, they found out that my mother had already been more than 2 months pregnant. My mother was carrying twins. The whole pregnancy went very poorly, and the doctors were a loss. They consulted a spiritual master who said that in my mother's womb, besides the 2 normal fetal spirits, there were also several fragmented fetal spirits that were not human. These things would grow along with the children, their presence becoming heavier and heavier. That master was Master Chan, the head of Inshan and Jet's teacher. The rest of the road was smooth and clear, and we soon saw Master Chan. Only then did I understand why my parents had said they wouldn't come unless absolutely necessary. They would rather keep moving, uprooted and wandering with me, than settle this debt. By the time we reached Hidden Mountain, I understood everything. Master Chan sat with his hands forming seals. No, it can't be said he was sitting. It was as if half a body had been propped there because he had no legs. Across the whole Hidden Mountain, among the disciples we saw, not a single one was fully human. In mild cases, it severs hands or feet. In severe ones, it takes all the limbs, leaving the victim in a stupor. The whole Hidden Mountain looked eerily strange. Master Chan sized me up. This many years on, that shattered fetal spirit has long since fused with the child. As long as the child is alive, that thing will always be able to find you. Please, Master, help us. I already told you the method long ago. Take this child's soul and spirit to offer to it, and you too must serve it for life. From now on, the child will follow me in cultivating the way, bridging yin and yang. But this practice exposes heavenly secrets and will bring backlash later. The child will eventually be maimed, though not die young, and the calamity will afflict the whole family. If you are willing, I will go and speak with that beast. My father's eyes were bloodshot. He clenched his teeth and forced his lips to tremble. Master, is there really no other way? The child is still young. Master Chan sighed deeply. Alas, all things have spirits. Your enmity with that beast runs too deep. And so I remained in the Hidden Mountain. My master performed 2 religious rites, one to liberate my brother and one to liberate Rocky. They were finally able to rest in peace. My master said they will both be wealthy and fortunate in their next lives. I became an Onmyoji, like senior brother Jet who helped us. I helped many people dispel evil influences and avert disasters. I just don't know when the backlash that belongs to me will arrive.